Kickoff starts now.
So you have a certain attraction, like you said, to those losing organizations. Have you been offered jobs at better organizations and you've turned them down to go to losing teams?
Yeah, it's a combination of things. Particularly when since 1984, I've stayed in Tucson, and that's kind of been a deal breaker. We just wanted to be here, and if it was going to be a job we were going to take outside of Tucson, it had to be something pretty special and a good financial payday, because the weather here is just pretty spectacular most of the year, and it's a tough place to leave. It's a beautiful community, and the cost of living is very moderate, and so we enjoy being here. And I went to graduate school here and was gone, so we had the taste of two different times to be able to get a good feel for what life was like in many other places. And yeah, but you look at a job and you look at the whole thing, and the question is not, can someone be successful here? The question is can I be successful here? And that's what you have to look at, because we all need different things, because frankly we all have different strengths and weaknesses. And part of that formula becomes, are there people around that I can hire, particularly in high school, because you're not going to bring guys in like you do in college or the pros, but are there guys around here that I can coach with that want to be part of what I'm doing? And in some cases, once I took a job where that wasn't the case. They just kind of lied to me about what they had, and I wanted that job, and it looked good and promising. I like the kids. I'm still in touch with a lot of them today, but the surroundings just weren't. We won, and it was no fun. And I went from there to another job, and I moved. They were 1-9, and the next year we were 12-1, and the next year we were in 14-0, state champions, and ranked number 17 in USA Today. And it just kind of exploded. There was a sports writer named Dave Kreider, who was the sports editor for USA Today, and he just took a fascination in that turnaround thing that we had done, and we knocked off the number 16 team in the nation in the state championship game. Both of us were undefeated. The league changed hands 7 times during the game. It was really one of the best. Watching the film, it was really one of the best high school games I've ever seen on TV, in terms of two good teams and entertaining, and league changing hands back and forth. And we scored a touchdown, with a couple minutes to play, and then we had to hold them off at the end. And great, exciting game. And those things are so much fun. So what I try and tell coaches that ask me about these turnarounds and all the time is, what would you rather do? Would you rather be attacking the castle outside in the countryside, deciding which days you want to fight and not, or would you rather be in the castle and defending it? And I've never found that. I call that, to me, I divide athletes into 2 categories. I call them doers and victims. And I want to be around doers. I want to be around people that want to be active, that want to go from A to B to C to D. And I very much follow the scientific method, very much. You can't jump, you can't to a conclusion. You got to go through the steps, and you can go through them rapidly, and that's great. That's what I like to do, obviously, because I'm not a real patient person. But and obviously we've done it, because every single team I've had that was winless, 1-2 wins when I took over, like I said, they were all losers, and every single one of them was in the playoffs by my second year. 75% were in the playoffs my first year, and they were losers before. And you don't do that by yourself. You do that by kind of rallying the troops. You're not George Armstrong Custer. You see what I mean? You're more of a General Grant. There's things that have to be done. There's foundations that have to be built up. There's walls that have to be reinforced. You might need some new troops. You might need an infusion of capital to help you get things you don't currently have. And you can't get around that. There's just no way to say, oh, I'm not going to do that part. It's. And I kind of pride myself on not just doing each one of those steps, but by meticulously doing each one of those steps. And I call it the trivial differential. And it's one of those things that we pay scrupulous attention to such small details that most other people don't even notice they're there. And that's kind of, if there is a secret to what I do. And it's certainly not a secret. That's done by corporate people and entertainment people and individual athletes in all sports. But that's a hallmark of what people do to be just a little bit better than the other guy. Because remember, this coaching profession, there's a lot of good strategists. There's a lot of good people out there with great new ideas, but they can't manage people. They can't manage resources. They don't take care of their players off the field, and you see them getting in trouble all the time, and sometimes they do that, and their brilliant stuff just doesn't match the team that they have, and they end up, losing. And when really sound fundamentals would have carried them home all the way. And that's another thing. I mean, we need to be the least penalized team on the field. We're going to win the special teams battle. We're not going to give up the big plays. We're not going to turn the ball over. There's just certain things that make you close in games. And when your team's hungry and you're close in games, when they weren't in that game the year before, they're getting beat by 50. And now they're within 7 points in the fourth quarter. That's not the same guys. They may be the same people, but they're not the same guys. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That changes everything, and it changes your opponent. Your opponent was up by 30, 40 points last year, and now they're only up by 7 going into the fourth, and they're going, what's going on? Who are these guys? How come, and they start to get a little flustered, a little bit nervous, and now they're not playing to win. Your opponent is playing to stop, to not lose, and you can't play that way. That's a horrible, that you see that all the time. That people turn on TV and a lot of fans get out there and they hate teams going into prevent defense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they don't understand why that. Well, coaches get fired when they're in 30 seconds to go and they hit a 70-yard pass play. Coaches lose their job over that. So that's why they go into that prevent defense. But that prevent defense is a mental defeat in itself. And what you're telling your defense has been great for 4 quarters. And now you're telling them, we're going to get out of we've held this team off for almost 4 quarters, and now we're going to get out of that at the last minute. So you're planning a message, and what you're doing is you're putting it into the hands of your opponent that you go out and execute, you go out and do your job, and you're going to beat us. That's what you're saying when you go into prevent, right? Mm-hmm. And so you have this juggling match of all these mental things, of everything you do. That's just one little example. And every single thing that you do, that's one of the things in the book that I wrote, and talking my way through the game itself, which is what the fourth quarter of the book is, because I kind of divided it up into quarters. Heck, I am a football coach, and I divided it up into quarters, and the fourth quarter is the game itself, and all the different strategic decisions that you make on the sidelines. And your coaches and the other coaches and how the other team, how you respond to that, and trying to walk the viewer through all of that from the seat of the head coach. That was part of my whole thing. As a matter of fact, I don't even name the head coach in the book at all, so that the reader could be sitting in that chair, so to speak, and maybe kind of see what it was like to be in that decision. Like there's one point in the game when we're on the edge of almost losing it, and we're behind 7-3 going into the fourth quarter. And the team, they're better than us. There's no question about that. They're 5-time national champions. They're in Texas. It's on national television. We're playing the game in Texas. It's a bowl game. And we got this multi-million viewer audience out there, and people are going, my assistant coaches are going, run this stuff, because we saved some special plays, just for the last drive. They're going, now we're losing it. We need a spark, and trying to get everybody to be patient. With the motto was, I told the team all the time, get us to the fourth quarter within 7 points, and we're going to use this last ditch strategy that we're going to practice over and over and over again. So that it's like the most rehearsed thing that we would do, like Bill Walsh used to do with his first 20 plays. That was one of the secrets that started the game off.
Mm-hmm. How long after the game actually happened did you realize, or did it come to you that you would want to write a book about that moment and experience?
Well, I never did. It was actually other people, and it had come before. We had won a game back when I was coaching in high school, Santa Rita High School. It was the year I got the National Coach of the Year, and we'd won in a team had clubbed us bad during the playoffs. And we had this miracle come from behind win in the fourth quarter with something that most teams don't do. We're behind by 2 scores with about 4 minutes to play. And a traditional strategy that I learned was it's called the 4-minute strategy, which just for that, you're behind by 2 scores, you got 4 minutes to go. And obviously you need the ball twice and you have to stop them, right? Mm-hmm. And so those strategies that when you think deep in your pocket, you just don't go into those situations and go, okay, what am I going to do now? You have to have, and kids are going to perform better in those clutch situations when you have, when you've rehearsed those strategies, even if it's just once or twice. And so we went into that and we kicked the field goal as time ran out to win the game. And somebody told me, this needs to be a movie. You need to write a book about it. And I started thinking about some of the wins that we had. But then when we had this at Pima College, when we had this bowl win on national television, only our 4th year of existence, and we were 40-point underdogs for this game. We were supposed to be the team that we were the cannon fodder for, and this is under the old bowl system, not the one they have now where they have the national rankings. In junior college, it's a little bit different anyway. And so they picked the best team, and if they won in their game, they would be national champion. If they lost, then it would go to the number 2 team. And so the number 1 team, somehow we got picked, and we got 2 bowl bids, one in Georgia and then one in Atlanta. Yeah, outside of Atlanta, and one in outside of Dallas, and we took the closer one. But also, this one was on national television, and so we thought that was real cool. And then when I saw the film on them, I realized that I might have made a pretty good mistake because these guys were exceptional. And but we found a strategy, and the team bought in, and things worked out our way, and we won the game on the last drive. Just one of those miracle things that sometimes happens. We won the game 10-7. By the way, they scored their touchdown on the first drive of the game.
Wow! So you probably were.
They just went right through us like we weren't there, and we had the regroup. And again, in the book, I talk about all these psychological up and downs and how you manage it, frankly, because that's what it is. This is about game management as much as anything else, And so, so afterwards, I don't know, it was a little while afterwards, but we went to live in Italy, and I coached a team in Florence, Italy. And while we were there, I had a lot of off time during the day, and I decided that I was going to write the book. And I'd kind of started and played with it a little bit. And I took a cruise across the Atlantic, something I always wanted to do as a history teacher, and feel what it was like to be out at sea crossing, the ocean like some of these people had done, and even on a cruise ship, you're still 7-8 days without seeing any land or anything. Hardly the same as the explorers, but still you get that idea. It's the same way when I drove the Alaskan highway. Not quite the same driving in a small motorhome as an explorer in a covered wagon, but you still get the idea of how far it is and what it must have taken. Anyway, when we were on that trip, I started writing, and it took me 5 years to complete the book, and I completed it in 2012 when I was in Italy. When frankly, I just had a lot more time to sit down and write than I would have when I was a teacher coach in the U.S. And I could only do it some evenings and some weekends, and it's quite a process. It was something I wanted to do, kind of one of those things where, you want to go to Iceland, or you want to skydive. And for me as a journalism major, writing a book was something that I just had in my skull someplace that I'd like to do. And when this game came up and I said, this would be good because the backstory was just as good as the actual game story, because we had kids from all over the country that we had recruited, mostly because they wanted to play for me, and not so much of my being a great coach or anything, but because I helped kids graduate. And these kids were athletically, junior colleges are amazing, the talent that they have, but the kids have some baggage. And usually, and sometimes they're academically. See, we had half of our team was academically very strong and could have been in any college they want. But in high school, they didn't play at a good enough school. Their coach didn't help them enough. They were an inch too short. They were 20 pounds too light. They were a step too slow. You see what I mean? And they wanted their shot to get to the big time for the junior college. And so junior college football is athletically is remember Cam Newton came out of a JUCO in Texas, and that's the league we went to play in, the league that Cam came out of. He wasn't there yet, but that was the same league, and so they were full scholarship and we were not. So I had to get my players by attracting them some other way, and frankly, my staff and myself and how we helped kids get through college was how we got players. Some of them came from other JUCOs and they just weren't getting any help. And we put together the team that way. But one of these kids, his mother had died from rural Alabama, and his mother had died about 6 weeks before of a disease, and 2 weeks before he was supposed to show up, his father was killed in an automobile accident. And it was just him, and his brother had half raised him anyway. And his church got him the money to get on the bus and come out to Tucson. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I get this phone call, and he says, "Hey, it's me. I'm at the bus station. Can you come and get me?" And he's calling the head coach to do this. Yeah. And it was hilarious. So I decided what the heck to go in. The guy was perky and bright, and he'd been up all night, 2 days on a bus, and he was just happy-go-lucky. And I said, "I'm going to go meet this kid." And I went and picked him up, and his whole life was in a suitcase, and one suitcase, and a duffel bag, and a backpack that school backpack, and his whole life was in that. And he was coming out to start a new adventure and re-gear his life. And I picked him up. I took him to my favorite breakfast place, and I ordered breakfast for 3, and I didn't eat a thing. And the kid hadn't eaten in 3 days. And you get a story like that, and he ended up being one of our superstars and one of the key players in the game. As a matter of fact, when we had to have a first down at the end of the game, we had to have it, or we had to give the ball back to them and their powerful offense for one more try. And he made a miracle run to give us, he was our defensive back, but he was our backup tailback because he was so talented. Mm-hmm. And he made a miracle run to get us a first down to ice the game. And we're still friends to this day. And that was 2004.
Great.
If you enjoyed this episode of From the Den, please remember to subscribe, comment, and like this video.
Or, if you're a Packers fan, remember to dislike and leave a nasty comment. Click the links on the screen to access additional content.